Welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna, a place where real stories meet real hope. I'm your host, Johanna Vendel, a published author, speaker, and the CEO and founder of the prestigious International Hope Book Awards. On this podcast, we share powerful stories of faith, resilience, and transformation, conversations with authors, survivors, and changemakers who turned life's hardest moments into purpose. If you're searching for encouragement, healing, or a reminder that your story still matters, then you're in the right place. Press that subscribe button now and don't miss a story. So now, let's welcome your host, Johanna Vendel.
Good day. On today's episode of Give Me Hope with Johanna, I sit down with author Gary McDougal, a man whose life story reads like 9 lives lived and survived. In this powerful conversation with Gary, he shares his extraordinary journey with me behind his book, Don't Tell Me There Ain't No God, revealing how faith, survival, and the undeniable moments of divine intervention has shaped his life. If you have ever questioned whether God is present in your life, then you have to listen to today's story. Let's welcome Gary so that he can tell us how he lived through 9 lives. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Joanna, for having me. I'm really enjoyed the opportunity to come here and be on your show and talk to your viewers about the essence of what your show is about, which is what I love to talk about, is giving people hope.
Yes. If we can give people hope and just someone can wake up this morning and see our stories and say, you know what, not today, let's live another day, then we have done something right.
Absolutely. It is my life's passion right now that I'm retired and I can focus totally on that. Don't have to get up every day and go to work. I can focus on this is my new job, to give hope. I would like to start with this one quote because there's a quote that is so profound in relationship to my whole attitude about hope and what hope is all about, from my perspective. And that is a quote from Hal Lindsey that says, his quote is that man can live about 40 days without food, about 3 days without water, about 8 minutes without air, but only 1 second without hope. When you lose hope, and I've been there, I've been to the edge of the abyss and looked over, and I know what it's like to lose hope. I was just fortunate that in my darkest moment, at that moment when I was ready to go over the cliff into the dark abyss, God shined his light on me and pulled me back from the abyss. And when I say turn my life completely around, I mean completely around. I was a new person. And that's why I can relate to the concept of being born again, because I died that night and God brought me back and he gave me a new life and a new purpose and a new outlook on life. And it changed my life forever.
Wow. Well, Gary, I have read your entire book from the start to the end, and I'm shocked that someone can live through 9 lives. I mean, really, Gary, that is only because God was there.
Absolutely.
I can just see why your book is called Don't Tell Me There Ain't No God, because wow, your story has inspired me so much. And it maybe has also brought me closer to God, to know that I am not wrong in believing in him 100%. There was also a time in my life where I also stood at that cliff, and I also had to make choices. And it's just sometimes that voice, tells you, not today, not today. And I am so glad that I have given my life to Jesus and that I have given him the chance to work in my life. Today I want to hear your story, Gary. And we're going to start at the beginning because it is crazy. So let's listen.
I was in my mom's womb. She came here. I was born here. And then after a while, I moved to New York. And then there was something that happened. We had a couple other siblings born, and then something happened. I don't know what. And she left my dad and went back to Belize, which is where they both are from. They're Belizean, and that is my heritage. And so I lived there. I started school there as in kindergarten. And then when just shy of my 8th birthday, it happened. A terrible, horrible, at the time, the most, what the word, I forgot what word, I've done the research, they said, but essentially one of the greatest, most devastating, whatever, hurricanes in recorded history at that time, in that area of the Atlantic came, 200 plus mile an hour winds, 25-foot storm surge. And the short version is when it was all said and done, it killed every living soul in my village except for me, my mom, the siblings that I had at the time, and there's one other lady that was with us to help save us. And we survived. My mother was, I don't even want to say, she saved our lives. And I don't even know how she figured it out and thought about it. God was, I guess, speaking to her or whatever. I don't know. But she saved us and we survived. It was a miracle. Simple as that.
Yes, wow. I did read in your book that she tied you up to a land pole.
Yes.
Wow.
Unbelievable. With sheets tied us to the pole. And as the water rose, because I tell people, in a hurricane, it is not the wind for the most part that you have to fear. It's the water
It's the
you have to
water.
fear. It's the water. And that water was rising after a 25-foot storm surge. And as it rose, what my mom did, she was able to take us out. I never forget my sister, oh, I think maybe a year ago, we were talking about it because she has a lot better memory than it is. She remembers my mom holding us two at a time under her arms because we were little kids, a little small, and carried us out to a pole, took sheets, tied us to the pole, and as the water rose, she did like one of those people that climb poles and stuff I guess she learned it from the guys in Belize that go up those trees to get the coconuts because they do a similar thing. And I
Yeah,
think that's where
wow.
she got it because it's like that. You just ratchet up and you just go up as the water came up, and she took us all the way up until the top of the water stopped. And then as it receded, she swam us one at a time over to our house. Our house was still standing, and we sat on the roof. Everything was dead, just like Katrina, that Katrina hurricane in Louisiana. Bodies floating
Mm,
everywhere. It was a, but I was a little boy. I wasn't scared. I
yes.
wasn't this. I just, oh wow.
You went with the moment, and then only afterwards you realized what happened. And
Well,
then,
when the water receded down to where you could walk around on the ground, we started leaving. My mom said, "Well, we're going to try to go into the main city, in the Belize city, because there's nothing here. Everything is destroyed, pretty
mm,
much." And as we were walking through the dead bodies and skipping over bodies and
oh,
all of this, the army came in trucks and they picked us up. And they took us to, I guess, a Red Cross area or some hotel, St. George Hotel, I believe, where other survivors from other parts of Belize had gathered, those who survived, and they were there and being taken care of.
mm,
Um, to me, it was just something that was happening. I don't recall ever being scared or being surprised or being anything.
Yes,
It just, I was a little boy. I had never seen nothing like that. We didn't have TVs and all that stuff
yes.
there. I knew nothing about the outside world. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know that the United States of America even existed.
You see, and then at that time, all you think about is just, oh, well, this happened. But
Yep.
when you grow up, now that you think back on it, you can see God's hand in it all the time.
There's no way
Now that
we're
you
supposed to be
understand.
alive. You don't kill everybody in the village and we don't die and God wasn't involved. I mean, how does that happen? I
Yes.
mean,
Wow. And then, as I recall, the story goes on, and there was nothing left for you in Belize, really. So your mom wanted to take you back to your father in
New York.
America.
Mhm.
And to get there, you have to get onto an airplane. Do you want to tell us the
That's
story?
crazy. I don't even, I did some research on it and it factually happened because when I did Ancestry.com, they even showed the manifest of the cargo plane and it named all of my siblings and my mom as being on that plane, even though that plane was not a passenger plane. That was a cargo plane and we were baggage in the baggage area of the plane because it wasn't designed for that. I don't even know how my mom pulled that off. She's a miracle. I mean, I can't even say enough of that. But we got on the plane, but planes are very, very, very funky about weight. And it wasn't planned that we were going to be on that plane with the cargo. And so it ran out of fuel before we could get to Miami and it was going to crash and was like, oh my God, I don't even didn't even know that. My mom told us that story. I didn't even realize that that had happened because I was a little boy and I didn't know nothing about nothing. But we
My
made an
goodness.
emergency landing. We made it back to Miami, barely made it. And because of that incident, my mom would never get on a plane for like, I don't know, 40, 50 years later. And she would never get on a plane again because and that's how I know about the plane part because she told us when I said, Mom, why can't we go fly here? And then she told me, this is why.
My word.
So
My
the moral of the
goodness.
story is not the moral, but the part of that connection is within the space of 2 weeks, we were nearly killed twice. We escaped there two times in less than 1 week. I was 7 years old and already experienced what most people never experience in an entire lifetime.
Wow. This is amazing. Wow. And then you were just 8 years old
Yep,
and you started school there.
yep,
And do you want to
yep.
continue with your story?
I tell people this part because I think people never appreciate it. When I left Belize, we lived in a 3-room shack with no running water and an outhouse. When I came to America and sat down on a toilet and flushed it for the first time, it was like I died and gone to heaven. I was like, oh my God. That's why I tell people when I came and moved into the ghetto, it was an upgrade for me.
Oh, that's funny. That is so funny. Wow. And you want to tell us a little more about your
Father there. So
said
so
when
what
you
I tell
guys
people
came.
in that about my father's story is be careful what you wish for. Because when I was in Belize growing up, I never knew my father. And my mom never talked about, I guess, whatever that breakup was so bad. She never mentioned him. I didn't even know his name.
Mm.
And when I was in school, people would, their fathers would come and pick them up at school and interact with them. And I didn't have any father, and I was all happy. Why don't I have a father? And where is my father? And my mom didn't really want to talk about it. So I never had a father, and I always wish, oh, I wish I had a father. I wish I had a father. Let me tell you something. We came to America, we ended up in New York and Brooklyn with my father and stayed with him. And I met my father and started living with him and learned who my father was, beating my mom up, beating us up. And when I say beating us up, I'm not even talking about, the spanking. That would have been okay. I'm talking beat us like we were grown, punched us in the head like we were, we were like it was a bar fight, and grab me by my neck and pick me up by my neck and choke me. And then
Oh,
the
my word.
ultimate nightmare is one day my sister told me why. I don't remember, but apparently I snuck out the house to go to some little party in the building next door, and I snuck back in, and my father caught me, and he got so mad he grabbed me and dragged me to the window the project window and put me out the window and hung me out that window like laundry by my ankles, threatened to drop me to my death, while my mother and my sister stood behind him crying and begging for my life. That was my father. And when
Wow.
he beat my mother, he beat my mother all the time. And then one day he beat her so bad she was sitting down in a pile of broken dishes in the kitchen one day, and I lost it. Just
Mm.
completely, that's it. I was playing Little League Baseball at the time. I was 12 years old. I ran down in the room. I grabbed my Little League bat and I ran into the kitchen. And I told my dad, shaking that bat, I said, if you touch my mom again, I will take this bat and I will beat you to death with it while you're asleep.
Wow.
And
Sure.
I meant it. That's the sad. I'm glad, thank God I didn't do it, because then I'd have that hanging into my life. But he got the message because the cops came, and back then domestic violence wasn't a thing for the police. They didn't do
Mm.
anything, and next thing you know, he's back there. But he remembered that, and I'd probably say within a few weeks he abandoned us and he moved out, which is a good thing. I wasn't mad. I was like glad. I was like, good riddance. Don't let the doorknob hit you. That's
Mm.
it. I mean, that was too
Wow.
much. I mean, it was just
How
it's
old were
just
you at that time?
12. I was 12 at that moment. 12 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that is
So be
unbelievable
careful what you wish
sometimes how,
for. That's what I tell them. I
yes.
was like,
Oh,
gosh, that's terrible. Imagine,
oh,
imagine dreaming about meeting your father, only to when you finally do, wish you never did.
yes. My goodness. And then you want to tell us a little about your school life and your friends, good
Okay, so
friends?
in high school, it's mostly taught. Well, actually, let's elementary. Yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, every time I think of some of these things, but it's worth it. It's a flashback. I got to go flash back to it, and then when you flash back to it, then you got to relive it. When you relive it, then you got to
Yes.
deal with it. But to
Yes.
me, I've come to grips with it. I have said to my wife and to my close friends, it is worth it to relive it, to give my story and my testimony to people so that they can, and this has happened to me on a number of occasions, well, many. I travel wherever I go with 3 copies of my book. And God typically, usually leads me to somebody, and I end up staying. Hey, they tell me they're talking to me. I give them a book, and then they say, "Oh, wow, this was the timing. Oh, I was going through so much, and now they tell me about your story. It really just blesses me, and it helps me to get to look at things differently, and to help deal with the things that it essentially gives them hope." And
Mm,
and so for me, that's such a blessing, because to me, it's worth everything that I've gone through. Now,
definitely.
in elementary school, I went to a Catholic school. I was all I ever knew growing up as a little boy. My mom was Catholic. We were Catholic. We went to Catholic school. We went to Catholic church. We did everything Catholic. Everything was Catholic.
Mm,
Believes is essentially Catholic country as well for the most part. And so when I came to America, I went to a Catholic school and went to Catholic church, and I became a choir boy and all of those kinds of things. And then unfortunately, one day, the way I'm gonna say it, the way the kind of book says it to some extent, because of the horror of it all,
mhm.
is that a priest took me into the rectory up to his room, and some unquestionable, unmentionable things occurred. Well, let's just leave it at that.
We can just leave
And
it there.
it
Yes.
was that incident that caused me to completely lose my faith. That was it. That was okay, I'm done. There was other things along the way, but that was the catalyst because in my mind, I'm 12 years old, but I couldn't
Yes.
understand how, in my mind, God would allow something like this to happen in the church. It was just
Yes.
I
Yes.
wasn't able to, I couldn't process it. It was just too much for me. And so I got upset. I literally, and I'm not proud of this, but I made my peace with God. God has forgiven me and changed my life, and I'm good with it. But at that moment, I denounced God. I literally looked in the sky, shook my fist at God, cursed him, and said, "How could you do this? And I'm done with you." And when you think back on it, you go, "That's kind of crazy. How, if you know a God exists, and I did, why would you then turn your back on?" I see turn your back if you don't think God exists. If you think God exists, then you know that God is God. Right? Whoa, hey, this is the supreme being. You gotta, hey, be careful. Whoa. But at that point, I lost it. I was done, and I was done for a long time until that moment when I just I reached the end of the road. I was done, and I cried out to God, "Help me," because I was so lost. I was so done. My life
Mm.
was, in my mind, I was a failure. I wasn't worth nothing. I couldn't do anything. And as you read my book, you see all of those things that occurred along the way. So
Yes.
after
Yes.
after the 12-year-old thing, it didn't get better. It got I want to tell the story about this because it's interesting to know that in your life you can pursue things, certainly, and you can make plans and you can do all of that. But life sometimes don't go the way you planned it. Don't go the
Mm.
way you did. I remember I was in high school, and because we were living in the projects, and my father had left, and we were on welfare, and we was doing the whole take the cart to the depot because back then they didn't have the EBT cards and they didn't even have food stamps back then. You went to a depot with a shopping cart and they gave you government cheese, government egg, powdered eggs, not real eggs, powdered milk and that kind of stuff. Spam. Oh, don't even get me started on spam. That was to this day. I Spam is a bad word for me. I just no with the spam, no. But that's the life that we lived. And so in high school, I went to a technical high school to learn different auto mechanics, electrical, all this stuff. And in my junior and senior years, I literally had a full-time job to help my mom and help myself. I wanted certain things. I wanted nice clothes because all our clothes up until then, we didn't have new clothes. Our clothes came from Salvation Army. That's where we went. We go buy some new clothes. Are you kidding me? No way, no how. But I wanted new clothes. I was in high school. It was peer pressure. I wanted to wear, I wanted to look. So I got a job, full-time job. I worked in a gas station, my junior and senior taxi cab slash gas station. That's where I encountered the mafia, but we won't get into all that right now. But the main part is when it came time to graduate, I I don't know why. I don't remember that story of the why it happened, but I ended up was two classes short. Geography, the geography teacher didn't pass me in senior, and I guess I didn't do art or whatever. So my counselor said, "Oh, you gotta come back to you're gonna have to come back next year for these two random time of the day classes." And I said, "Oh no, I'm not giving up my job. I got work. No." So he said, "Oh, well, you can wait 6 months and you can take the GED." And so I did. I took the GED, got an incredible score. He said, "Oh, you qualified for this program now, where you can go into this program. I think it's called Advanced Individual Merit Program, and you can go for free. We pay for your room, your board, your food, the class. You don't got to pay nothing. We take everything." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." So a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, as it says in the movie, right? I get there and I'm going to school, and I'm studying, I'm doing all this. Come to find out, at the end of the first, yes, with the first semester, when it's time to get renewed for the first semester, I go to the office, to the bursar or whatever, and they say, "Oh, we haven't received your payment for tuition and for the food program and blah 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 blah." And I go, "Well, I don't know nothing about that. And so, okay. So they said, "Oh, well, we're going to go do X." So then I went to school for it. They paid for that next semester. And then when I went to go for the next semester, the third semester, they said they ain't got paid for the first two semesters. And I'm sorry, Leroy, but you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here because we ain't paying for housing, we're not paying for your classes, we're not paying for your food. You gotta go. And I couldn't understand. I'm on a government program.
Mm.
So come to find out, the people who are running that particular program there, they embezzled the money.
Oh,
And they were buying cars and doing all this stuff with well, probably other people's money, but I didn't care. I was thinking about my money. And
yes.
so they finally got arrested and all that kind of stuff. But my college education didn't happen. And so I had to do other things.
Yes.
It's just,
And then you started your adult life. Um, we won't tell everybody the whole story because they also need to go buy your book and read the
absolutely.
stories.
But let me
But
do
let's
this. Let me
jump.
do this, if you don't mind, because I'll forget, because at my age, I forget things easily. Oh, by the way, in case people know, don't looks are deceiving. I'm 72 years old. See?
You don't look it. You
I
really
know
don't look it.
people tell
I
me,
look at you
but
sometimes and I cannot say that you are that old.
I know. But what I was going to say is that I I want to, because I'm putting things together. I've got it together to start doing speaking engagements. And one of the things that I want to do in the speaking engagements for people, especially if you read my book and if you don't read my book, is to give some little pieces of my life that are not in the book, which is the bonus. You go, oh,
Mm.
wow, I didn't know that. Because everything, I didn't want
Yes.
my book to be this big, thick thing and people can't. I want my book to go in and go, wow, wow, oh, wow, 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 wow.
Yes.
So I wrote every chapter is a cliffhanger because I wanted people to go, whoa, 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 whoa. And then, as you know, in the prologue, I do, quote unquote, what some people in the church call an altar call, essentially, more or less,
Mm.
where I talk about Christ and all of what Christ dying and all of that, because that's the culmination of everything. And I want that to be the whole point. My life, that's my
Yes.
point. My life is just to point you to Christ, to be able to I'm a witness to say what God can do in a person's life. And if he can bring me through things that most people I've had tell me, man, that your life is unbelievable. I don't even
Yes.
think Hollywood could write a script like that. It's like, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, how are you still here? I've heard it all. Okay. I've heard everything you go, but I want to share this because one, this is not in the book, and this touched my heart like nothing else. Probably maybe about a year ago, I was putting my stuff on Facebook and doing all these things, and a girl who lived in the projects where I lived, and we knew each other's families, and we grew up essentially together. She found my story and read it, and she said it touched her, and she changed her life, and she came to Christ. And
Wow.
I mean, I was so moved that that was a feeling that I never had, to know that I was instrumental in, especially somebody that I knew growing up as a child in the ghetto, in the projects. And after all these years, for that to happen, to me, my life was all worth it, even if it was just for that one person.
Yes. That's amazing, when you can touch someone's life like
That's what it's
that.
about. That's what
That's what
you're
it's
about. That's what giving
about.
hope, what Johanna's about. That's what it's all about.
Yes,
Giving
it
other
is.
people hope. That's what it's about.
Yes. It's what it's about, really, because if God doesn't want us all to get to know Him, He won't work in people like you and like me so hard to get His story out. So, yeah, don't tell me there ain't
The
no
other thing I want
God.
to share, and sometimes I apologize because I forget what I put in the book and what parts didn't get in the book, to tell you the truth, because there's so much. But I will say this, and this goes back to a particular, it ties into a scripture. When I was in high school, I I loved music, so I would listen to the radio all night and fall asleep. And I learned all the words to all of the popular songs, and I started writing my own lyrics. But I would rewrite the lyrics of somebody's song and put in my own new lyrics, but they were not, let's just say they were, I guess, somewhat risque, whatever you want to call it. My English teacher one day heard me singing some risque lyrics to some popular song at the time, and she pulled me in back into the classroom and said, "You know, Gary, you are one of my brightest students in English," because she was an English teacher, and you are obviously talented, but you should take that talent, use that talent for something positive rather than this mess that you're doing. And
Mm.
it touched me and it changed me. And I began writing song lyrics of my own after that. And it became my passion and it became my dream, was to be a famous songwriter. Well, not so much on the fame. I really don't like the fame part, but I wanted to get it out, my song of love and message and all this to people.
Mm.
It was what I wanted most. But guess what? This is the funniest thing. And it brings me back and it ties into the scripture in Matthew where Jesus says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple, deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me." And what I learned in that experience and what God showed me during that pursuit of that whole songwriting career was what Gary McDougal wanted for him, but that was not what God wanted for me. And there is nothing, and I mean, in my mind, nothing more difficult in life
Giving that up.
is to deny yourself when you have the ability to do it. There's nothing preventing you from doing it. And
Mm.
you have to do this and say, "No, I'm not going to do it." And the only reason that I really denied myself and didn't pursue it, and God changed my life into this whole systems engineering and all this other thing and law enforcement, things I had never in my mind dreamed of as a kid that I would ever be involved in. It was like, if you'd have told me when I was 12 years old, I would have done all that, I would have looked at, "Man, you crazy. What are you talking about?" But the only thing in life that I will ever, ever, ever take credit for is that when God said no, I said okay.
You listened.
That's it. Because
Mm-hmm.
it took the power of God to do that. We can't do that.
Definitely.
I can't. You as a human being, when somebody comes to you and gives you your whole dream, as what happened to me when that lady came to me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this," and instead of you, I mean, you're a great writer and all. When I was doing this deal with Arista Records, but you should sing these songs yourself, and I'm going to manage you, and I'm going to get you vocal lessons and do all this and make you a star. Um, and when I told that lady no, she lost her mind. She said to me, "How dare you? Do you know how many people would love to jump at the chance to have this opportunity and you said no?" I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was a crazy, but that was the time when I knew that God had gotten me to a place where now I could I have fully surrendered to Him. I trust in Him, and I did what Paul says in Romans when he says, "Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable." So that's the least that I can do for what God has done for me. And by that time, He had saved my life. I have to figure out, probably by that time, 5 or 6 times, probably by then. There's a couple more after that with another plane going down, and that was really scary. When you're on a plane and it's going into a death dive, and people are crying and praying and screaming and hollering, and all you're doing is you're praying too, and you're just waiting for it to hit the ground. There's probably nothing more scarier than that. Absolutely. But I'm grateful to God because God has, I wish that I could express to people the relationship that I have with God because I trust Him explicitly. He is the author and finisher of my salvation. My prayer is always the same: God, let your will be done and not my own, because I already know what you can do.
Amen. Definitely. So then you grew up and you started to work for NASA. After you've been a taxi driver, car repairsman.
All kind of stuff. At NASA, I had a friend of mine. I'm gonna tell her her name. Her name is Tamika. We would talk over time and I'd talk about my life. And then she got the first copy of my manuscript because I trusted her. She read it and all of that. And the thing she said to me was so funny. She said, one day she said to me, because we were, her booth was relatively right across from mine. She said, "Is there anything in life you haven't done?" And in that moment, I said that. I said, my life has been many things. Yes, it has, but it's never been boring.
That you can definitely say again. Yeah,
My
my
life is
goodness.
crazy. But let me tell you how the book came to be, because that's an important behind the scenes story.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so here's
tell
how the book
us.
came to be. I spent most of my life, probably from the time I got saved. Yes, so in fact, I'm going to figure out how to celebrate it in July, along with the America's 250th anniversary of their independence, freedom, whatever they call it. It will be in July, 50 years since I came to Christ. 50 years. And so
Amazing.
I'm not sure how I'm going to celebrate or do what I'm going to do when I'm going to do something. But anyway, how the book all came to be is after I got saved in 1976, after I was brutally assaulted on a sidewalk in New York City and pretty much fought for my life and almost died. That's when all that happened, and that's when the suicidal things happened, and that's when I got saved, all in that couple of weeks period in July 1976. But after that, over the years, I began to suffer from survivor's guilt because I couldn't rationalize my mind why I wasn't dead. Why was it that how has I escaped life, escaped all these near death experiences and all this stuff that was happening to me, and why I didn't know. I'm like, is it something I'm being saved for? Is it something I'm supposed to do? Is it why? And it drove me nuts because I couldn't figure it out. And my friends would say that knew me, and they would say, well, Gary, God has a purpose for you. Stop worrying about it. Stop obsessing over it. It'll be revealed to you when it's revealed to you,
When
and
it's time.
well, what if I can't do whatever you will do what God has for you to do when the time comes. God know what He's doing, even if you don't. Okay. And I'm like, okay, got it. But then my daughter was 14 at the time. I would talk to her about certain things because she'd go through this, so this was happening in her life. And I say, hey, well, your dad, blah, 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 blah. And I experienced some things, da, 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 da. And then she said, you know what, Dad, you should write that down. You should write all those times down because I'd struggle to try to remember, oh, maybe this incident, that. Well, and then I focused, I wrote them all down. So I had all 9 of them down, written in wherever it was, I don't remember. I think by that time, yeah, it was on the phone, right? Because by that time we had iPhones and notes, and I had a notepad or whatever. But the big change came some years later I went to a conference, and after the conference, I was at a hotel, and it's one of the hotels where they have the free breakfast downstairs, and you go down, you get the waffles and all that. And I met some lady, and we started talking, and one thing led to another, and I started talking a little bit about, my life, blah, 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 whatever, as I sometimes do, depending on how God leads me. And she was the one. She said, you know what? Your life is just like out of, not even Hollywood. That's an incredible story. You should share that with you. You need to write a book.
Yeah.
And a light bulb went off because I had never thought about it. And I said, hmm. So some months went by, 6 months went, and then one day I finally said, you know what? I need to go do this. And then I start, I had to do all the research and figure out, because I know nothing about no writing or no author and books and publishing and ignorant. I know nothing about that. But I did all the research, and some things I did right, some things didn't, but that's experience. But I started my own publishing company because I wanted to control everything, and I wanted to have my own ISBN. I wanted it to be everything where I wanted. I didn't want nobody telling me, well, no, do this or that, or we're going to own part of this, or
Yes.
we're going to do this, and you can't do that. No, this is me. It's my company. I do what I want. That's it. So that's the story of how the book came to be. Then in 2019, in August of 2019, is when I published it on Amazon and through Ingram Spark with Barnes and Noble and Books a Million, and my books even being sold on eBay. I found out. Oh, okay. But what is? Oh, I gotta share this story because it's definitely not in the book. And this, I don't know why it's in the book, but it ain't. Okay. When was this? I was already saved. I believe that's before. Yeah, I think it was after saved. I was on a highway one night, and I was driving somewhere in New York. I was on the New York Thruway or whatever. It was a rainy night, and the rain pretty much had stopped, but I ran out of gas. First time, the last time that ever happened, because I vowed after that I would never let that. I'm on this lonely highway. It's in the middle of the night, like about 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. I mean, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse hardly. So I ran out of gas. I barely got over to the side. And so then I didn't know what to do. I put on emergency flashes and I got out. And then after some unknown amount of time, I don't know how long it was, guess what happened? A car pulled up behind me, right? I was standing outside, so they saw me. And when I walked over to the car, it was an old white couple. And they said, "Well, sorry, I ran out of gas. Can you, how can you take me to the gas station and I'll try to get some gas, get a gas tank, and bring it back." And they said, "Okay." And they took me to the gas station. I got a gas can. I had to put some depositor down so I'd come back to the gas tank. Took the gas. I thanked them. They went on. I took the gas, got back, and put it in the can, took the gas and back. But here's the thing. I believe, and scripture speaks to this, that sometimes in our lives we entertain angels without knowing it. And I believe after all that happened, that those two old people were angels. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you something. Back in those days, if the odds on a white old couple stopping for a black man on a lonely highway in the middle of the night, you want to know what the odds of that are? I wouldn't do it.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's why I said those were angels. Because I had prayed, I was all sad. I don't know where, I was just, I don't know where they'll get there, and I don't know how I'm gonna. I was just all sad and praying. And next thing you know, they came out of nowhere, and I believe they were angels. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry. Not in the book, by the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yes,
That's
look,
why I tell my
sometimes
wife,
people come in your life.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
some.
it's once again, I think it's tongue in cheek. But and I like to say it because the words don't say it. Don't tell me there ain't no God.
Oh,
I know
yes.
better. See, for me, God is
Yes.
real. I know that God is real. I don't have to worry about doubt. I don't have to like, well, God, God proved to me that he exists and that he's God
Yes.
Almighty. I,
Yes.
I think I'm one of the most blessed people alive because I know for a fact he proved it. Most people don't get proof.
Definitely. Look, sometimes something must happen in your life. You think, well, we're going to have to see if God is real, and I always sometimes tell the story about my dad, who told us the story where someone was on a ship and their ship went down, or their boat, let's just say a boat. And he's like, well, God, please help. And God sends a ship around there. And they said, can we help you? And he said, no, God will help. So eventually, three ships came by, and he didn't get on because he said, no, he knows God will help him. But then eventually he drowned and he went to heaven and he said, but God, why didn't you help me? He says, how many more ships must I send you?
I like that.
You
That's a good
see?
one. I like
You
that.
see,
I'm
because
gonna use a
sometimes
portion of
God
that. I'm gonna change
sends
it up and I'm gonna
God.
use that because I like that. That was good.
Yes, because sometimes God sent people into your lives to help you, but you don't want that help that they want to give you, you know. Sometimes we just have to sit back and look at the blessings that God actually sends us.
That's
That's
another one that I
important.
tell people. Most people focus on what's not going right in their lives and what ain't this and what they trying to get on. And I tell you, count your blessings, because God is working in our lives, especially if we're Christians. Absolutely. Well, I'm not talking about the ones
You
who
let me think of that song now. Count your blessings, count them one by one.
people don't. I mean, even Christians, I talk to them all the time. They're always talking about what's not happening in life. Hey, what about all those good things that happen? Well, all those things that God, that you got to count your blessing. And my philosophy on the relationship is I do good, like the song, for goodness sake. I believe that when you do good things out of the kindness of your heart, not for anything in return, that actually what happens is you store up goodness in heaven. And when a
Mm.
bad time comes in your life, you can write a check. That's what I believe. I believe it obviously because I had to write up quite a few checks in my life.
Mm.
I mean, no,
Wow.
no joke.
So we are coming to the end of our podcast, but I would like you to tell us a little more about your publishing company and what can you offer people out there.
Okay, so this is kind of a little interesting. I actually didn't. I created the publishing company really for me. But what I wanted to do, and I have done, I haven't flushed it all the way out, is I wanted to sort of be also a place where authors can come and there's resources, free resources for a variety of things relevant to the publishing industry and to them. And I've helped a number of people that I've known. I've helped them get their book published in the sense of not actually going out and doing what real publishers do, but
Mm.
giving them guidance, saying, hey, these are some things to consider. This is what an ISBN is, and this is Amazon's number is not an ISBN, it's their own thing, and it could be restrictive, so you need to understand. And just those kinds of things, and putting their books up on my website so they have a place where they can point people to. They don't have to spend the money to go put a website or author page of their own, other than Amazon, of course. They can go there and I'll have their photo there and their book there and a link to their book, and they can do it. I do this. I don't charge people for this. Um, I let God selectively select the people who would be a part of that. And that's the real purpose of my publishing company. It's not really designed as a money-making venture, other than it also serves as a way for taxes of routing royalties through. And when my upcoming speaking engagement gets going and money starts coming for that, it will go through the publishing company, which is now a DBA under my umbrella LLC. And I don't think authors really understand the benefits of having an LLC and the whole tax structure. And there's a lot of tax breaks and things out there, including what's OBE, which is something that Trump came up with in 2016 that can allow you, if you qualify through that, to get a 20% off the top cut off of your taxes automatically, in addition to your expenses and all of that. And that has really done well for me with my business, especially when I was a contractor for NASA and I was making really good money. I mean, like big six figures at the time.
Wow. Wow. Well, well, it seems like you are definitely someone who likes to help people as well. And I mean, when I started to become an author as well previously, 6 books ago now, basically, I also needed help, and everybody just wants to charge you so much money. If you cannot put the money down, then they don't want to really help you to get ahead. And I had to also struggle the hard way and start the hard way. And that's why I also try to help people now with everything I do. And yes, it's amazing how God works in us and how we are just able to help people like this. And oh, my word, no. Well, Gary, thank you so much for coming to tell your story today. I really couldn't wait to share this with my viewers because after I read your book, I was just so inspired. But we will have Gary's links below in the description. If you go down and click on the button there, you are very welcome to get in contact with Gary and to also purchase his book. Any last words from your side, Gary?
Yes, I want to leave with one of my actual quotes, and that is that God may not always give you what you want, but He'll always give you what you need to do what He needs you to do.
Very nice. Amen. I also believe in that. Thank you so much.
Johanna, and God bless you. I appreciate you. And one thing I do want to say about you because this is probably not going to get said, and any authors out there, understand this: the prestigious International Book Award. But the thing that was so amazing to me is the other book awards, and I got plenty of book awards. I got so many decals, it make your head spin. Is that when you built the categories, you lay out the categories and you explain what they are, and it's just so specific to that. That's what I loved most about how you've got that set up. There are other things, but that was really what impressed me, that it was so well thought out that when you go look through the categories, you can say, oh yeah, that speaks to me. That is my book. That's what my book is about. Like for most other award ceremonies, it's just the category is a title. It's just, oh, okay, well, you figure it out. Figure out, well, does my book fit into that title, category? What does it do? You thought that through, and you did an excellent job, and I wanted to make sure everybody knows that about that specific thing. Unique.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Well, just so that people now know what we're talking about, I am the CEO and founder of the prestigious International Hope Book Awards, and I honor authors that write stories of hope. So if you have a story, please click below this video as well, and we will have our link down there for you to enter your book of hope, and we will get it recognized. Thank you for mentioning that, Gary.
My pleasure. And thank you for having me. And let us continue going forward and giving hope to those that God leads us to.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, that was Gary McDougal. And after living through 9 times where he was supposed to die, he is here today to tell his story. I would definitely suggest you go and buy his book and read it. It inspired me tremendously, and it definitely make you think twice if you want God in your life or not. Because with God in your life, things can only go better.
Amen.
Thank you. We will be back next week with another inspiring story. Follow me, share this post, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.